This episode of Monty's Minute is sponsored by Shutterstock.com with over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com right now and use offer code GAMEBREAKER6. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Monty's Minute, episode 31 for June 11th, 2013. I'm Gary Gannon, you're watching Gamebreaker. Joining me, as always, the one, the only, Mr. Monty Sharma. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Gary. How about you?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's E3 week. It's E3 week. It's not really E3 week. I'm lying because we're recording this a week early, but I'll just lie and say it's E3 week.
Yeah.
But I figure we talk about E3 a little bit since it is E3 week, and I don't know, I want to get your take on the whole, Microsoft versus Sony thing. I mean, last year, I think everybody pretty much agrees Microsoft won that battle with the Xbox, but how are you feeling this year with the PS4 and the Xbone?
So, this is actually a very exciting E3 in terms of what it means for the industry. So, everybody's watching two things. One is, if you read the reports, video game sales have been down, and when they say video game sales, they mean console title sales, have been down over the last year. Lots of other parts of the industry growing. The industry as a whole is growing. And part of it was they were coming to the end of a hardware cycle. So some of the major studios, at least this is the rumor, or who knows if it's true, held off on some of the titles that they have or that they've been working on to say, look, we're not going to throw $100 million at this title, and then a year later you come out with a new console, and now our game isn't as good as it could be. So that's caused a little bit of a added pressure to the industry. The cool thing, though, is Microsoft and Sony both came out and said, here's what we're going to do. And, okay, they did it in a couple steps, and we'll see more at E3, but we're going to have this out for Christmas, which is huge because, the last cycle, they did it over 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So, and Sony, whooped Microsoft in the original Sony Microsoft, so PS2 versus Xbox, in terms of what it shipped with, how well it was set up, all of that. Microsoft, I'll say won the last round because Xbox Live was polished, worked really well. They focused on the gaming experience and did really well. Sony ended up looking a lot more like a hardware company than, somebody running a broader game service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this year, from all the reports, it's like Sony has refocused on the gamer and the game development. So their core is going back to that, while Microsoft has a much broader, much softer kind of a message. And so, how does that impact what happens? Well, if you're a game company and, Microsoft and Sony come to you and say, hey, we want an exclusive on your title. It'll only come out on our platform, or on our platform, you give us certain special things. They're going to be more inclined to go with the one they think is doing better or going to do better. Or say that, no, you're both even, we're not going to give you anything special. And it is those sort of deals with exclusive content that often makes the decision for a buyer of, okay, look, they're kind of the same, the price range is kind of the same. Well, I really want to play this game, so I'm going to go this way or that way. So all of that is going to be really interesting to see on how they deal with it and how it comes out.
I mean, I got to say, from a gamer perspective, I think the sentiment around here in the community in general on Gamebreaker is definitely that Sony's got a leg up this year for sure. I think a lot of the the media stuff that Microsoft focused on, and the big one that everybody grumbled about is the always on and the Connect, camera being always on, and everybody's always afraid of it listening and being, I don't know, it's a little scary. And I heard some rumors that Microsoft was quite actually surprised by the amount of backlash that they got. I don't think they were expecting that at all.
No, because the discussion would have gone something like, what's a better interface model for all the stuff we're trying to do with this? Hey, look, if we have the camera on for the Kinect, we can do this, this, and this. Somebody probably said, hey, you think people are going to like it? Sure, if it works well, people will like it. And then nobody argued about it for a while. And it's probably one of these things that was born of a good, well-meaning idea. I mean, I can remember spending hours upon hours in meetings back in the late 90s on what's the interface of the future? How are people going to connect with their TV? The remote's not good. How is on-demand going to work? All these sorts of things that have interface issues. And we talked about voice control and, will they have a mouse and a keyboard?
Mm-hmm.
All of these things that are still problems. And the gesture control, when it came out in, when was that at CES? 2 years ago or 3 years ago at CES, which is usually the leading edge stuff is 3 to 5 years ahead of when it really hits market. There was a lot of gesture control systems. So I want to change the channel, I want to do this, I want to do that. Probably part of their mistake was saying the camera was on versus the motion sensor was on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want who wants to see you? I mean, God.
Who just wants to know that a camera is on 24/7?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the conspiracy theorists can say like, oh, your webcams, whatever, but them to just come right out and tell you like, hey, it's going to be on all the time. So I don't know. I think it was a misstep in marketing communication and where they're going with it.
It was terrible. They should have focused on, hey, we'll be able to sense the gestures. And that's all we're talking about. And here's the really simple and obvious way to turn it off.
Going to be interesting. Going to definitely be an interesting E3. We'll definitely be keeping up on it, and we'll be at E3 as well with a lot of live coverage. So keep an eye on Gamebreaker.tv for all of that as well. All right, so first up this week, this one in from Christopher G. He says, I'll be completely honest. I was kicked out of my school recently.
Okay, good start.
Nice. Good start to the question. He says, where I was learning more or less to make games. That means more or less, but okay. I wanted to know.
He probably means he was learning less.
Less sounds like it. Maybe possibly why I got kicked out. He says, I wanted to know what should I do to start my career in the industry. I'm basically a jack of all trades, just have not learned programming and animation, and currently practicing my skill in the concept art and 3D modeling mainly. I'm starting fresh with my portfolio and would hope to have one set up for GDC next year. I understand networking is part of landing a job in the industry. Christopher G. Going to be, I want to hear this answer. I'm interested in this answer.
So, step one, if you're tossed out of school, it doesn't mean you're worthless, but it does mean I don't know what you're worth. And by that I'm saying is if somebody goes through all the hoops to get a college degree, a 4-year degree versus an associate's degree, they go to a nonprofit college versus one of the for-profit ones, I have some sense of what it took them to get in, what they would have learned, and the fact that they had discipline to get through all these courses. And you got to take courses that really stink or you're not interested in, but you powered through that sort of stuff. So that tells me something about you as a person. Now, I know of a couple of people, one guy who, exactly in your boat, got tossed, another guy who never went, and both of them are, one of them's really built a solid career, the other one I think is on a good path to build a career. And what they both did is they essentially went and threw themselves at people, did a whole bunch of stuff for free, worked their tails off. So not only, in working for free, do you have to be as good as somebody is I'm paying for that job, you have to be better than somebody I'm paying for that job. And it's because every time I look at you, I'm going to have a reduced expectation and I'm going to expect you to fail. And, I'm sorry to say it, but that's just true.
How do you feel about the jack of all trades aspect to it? I mean, as opposed to being like more finely tuned and focused.
I put that out as you're young and you're not dropping yourself into a bucket. That's fine, because to be honest, you don't have any real clear marketable skills. Do whatever you do. I know one of the guys I'm talking about. He showed up and he worked in a mailroom and said, "Look, I'll do the mailroom stuff." This was years ago. Just let me be around you. And then he managed to convince the people that he could do things. And so they let him do little things in increments. Then he proved he was really smart, a great game designer, um, all around a wonderful person, just not the academic type. So he got that path. You're going to have to essentially, you're going to do stuff that doesn't require skills, so you can be a jack of all trades, but no one's going to bring you in and say, oh, okay, why don't you be my artist on this? The other, angle you can take is do good art, find some friends, find some people where you can be the artist for free. I had a few people come to me for freelance stuff this week where they needed a team pulled together. The funny thing is when you look around, you can always find artists. Programmers you can't find. You only find programmers when they want to be found. So, find a programmer and throw yourself at him and say, hey, I'd love to do art for your game. Here's how I can do it. This is what I can do that's better. Since you're doing it for free and it's not a business kind of thing, people will let you in. Now at least you have a game credit. You've shown something. And the biggest thing for me as a hiring manager would be you've shown you have enough discipline to get through it. And so is Christopher. So boys are generally stupid until they get into their mid-20s, to be perfectly honest. I was too. So, a lot of managers will say, yeah, okay, you got tossed out of school, but you suffered, you paid your price, you're older. Now I'm willing to talk to you. But you've got a few hard years. And to be perfectly honest, doing school is easier than the path you've got to take. But having taken a chunk of that path, it is doable.
All right, next up, this one from Noaf. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. He says, hi, I'm fascinated with the gaming industry. What could someone in Canada going to school for chemistry offer that could get me into the industry that I really want to work in? Okay, a chemist who wants to work in the gaming industry in Canada.
So Canada is one of the hotbeds of game development. Really substantial presence in the Montreal area, some in Quebec City. Vancouver was really hot for a couple of years. They've been hit hard in the last year and a half there. Both EA and Ubisoft closed major studios. Even in places like Halifax, which is the town I grew up in, there's a number of game studios there, and they're doing okay. BioWare Edmonton, if you want to move to Edmonton. So step one, you want to be in one of those cities I just named. If you're not in one of those cities I just named, it's going to be hard. Step two is, okay, so you're a chemist. What is it you can actually do other than chemistry? So, do you have the math skills to be a designer? Do you have any art skills? Did you learn to code to do chemistry stuff and you can teach yourself skills there? Or you start off doing one of the entry-level positions. You go in as a GM or as a community manager, as a marketing flunky. Any of those sorts of things, because you love the industry, you know it, you understand it, that'll get you somewhere. You may, even before you graduate, want to start volunteering for one of the sites. Write for them, do things, get something around you that says, something about the industry. So, as per our last question, graduating with a chemistry degree says, hey, this person's fairly bright. You got a science degree. Chemistry's not all that easy. You're smart. You're diligent. That's great. Now show me a skill that I'm willing to pay for.
Alchemy guru for the next Final Fantasy MMO. Just focus on just alchemy. That's it. Crafting. That's it.
Or, well, find somebody doing a Breaking Bad game.
There you go. There you go. All right, next in from William P. Jarity Jr. Sorry if I butchered your last name
I'd
there.
say it's Garrity.
Garrity. I'm 47 years old and I have severe back problems. I'm considered totally disabled. My dream job would be to working with at ArenaNet, either in marketing or database design. I'm one of those sick individuals who actually loves normalizing. I have an associate's degree in programming, and I am working on one in management. None of my work experience is in related fields, and my only management experience is from when I was in the Navy in 1985. I still have a lot to offer, but my age and disability put me at a disadvantage. Any advice would be appreciated. From William. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is the honest advice show. So there's absolutely a hit you take being disabled. Let's be honest about that. With the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, if a company takes on somebody who's disabled, there's a lot of accommodations they're required to make, even if you don't really need them or don't want them. HR in a major company is going to look at that and say, do we really want this guy? Is this guy spectacular? That is unfortunate, sad, makes me think less of our society, but the truth. So how do you succeed there? Well, really the opportunity there, and I think you do have a real opportunity, is you need to be the ultimate freelancer. You need to be somebody who develops a really solid expertise in actually a relatively narrow area. So if you love databases and you just keep digging down into database stuff, and you'll find people who are saying things like, hey, I just launched my game. In fact, I know a company who did this. The game launched, and, 8 hours after this game launched, the guy's on Facebook saying, hey, does anybody know a database expert that can do X, Y, and Z? Because they're going like gangbusters, servers are falling over. So, the real thing is if you go deep, if you build that expertise in a narrow area, then people are going to turn around and say, okay, look, wherever you are in the world, if you can do it, you deliver, and we're paying you as a consultant, which you can absolutely charge way more than you can as an employee. No problem. We're willing to do that. In doing that, you build up connections with these people, and you'll find a couple of things happen. Either you have a stable of clients who are regularly paying you and you're a happy guy working on multiple games. You have one company who essentially dominates your time. I'll tell you, at Vivox, we were 2 months old, 3 months old, and we had to get a bug out of our software. We needed a guy who knew Windows programming cold. Our VP of engineering said, look, I've worked with this guy. He's a consultant. We're going to pay through the nose for him, but he can nail these problems. Brought the guy in. Awesome. Nailed the problems really, really quickly. 8 years he stayed on as a consultant. We did everything we could to convince him to join us. He said, no, the money's great. And in all honesty, he was the only one who got rich off Vivox. And so being that consultant, being that guy is great. Once you've established a lot of these things and somebody understands you, you may find a company who then says, hey, look, we want to convert you to an employee. And what does that involve? And what's the real cost going to be to us to do it because you are that good? But for you, I would say the path to success is going to be through focus and expertise.
Mm-hmm. I think the other good thing is a lot more companies, especially I feel like in the gaming sector, are not maybe necessarily programming and maybe not marketing either. But it seems like there are positions, and more of them are a little bit open to like virtual companies than most other companies. Like they're a little less traditional, and only in certain positions. Like I said, I don't really know if marketing would fall under that category. Probably not.
No.
But some of the other stuff as well, that maybe like community things as well. I know a lot of community people can kind of, but it might not be kind of the career path you're looking for, or with the salary sort of that comes with, some of the database stuff and the expertise that you have.
Yeah, and for community and a lot of those things, it's, yes, we'll look at it and certain companies are more interested in it, but over time, people tend to want to be able to lay their hands on their community team. There's a crisis, I want everybody here, I want to be able to grab them.
Yeah.
I know a number of remote community managers who've been cut, or the company just runs into problems not having them front and center. So when you have a task that can be separated from people and it's clear, you got a shot. But having said that, absolutely check out community, try some other things like that you can do on contract, do things as a volunteer, see if you can find a path there. We wish you the best.
All right, we got some more questions, but first up, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with one of our sponsors, Audible. I love Audible. Audiobooks on your iPhone, your iPad, whatever device you've got. We've got a great deal going on right now. Just go to audible.com/Gamebreaker. We're going to hook you up and let you try Audible free for 30 days, absolutely free. And we're going to get yourself a free audiobook to get you started. So you just have to use that URL, audible.com/Gamebreaker. You've heard me talk about them. I love them. I've been an Audible fan for, I think it's about 6 or 7 years now, long before they were sponsors. So when they came out as sponsors, I was so happy they were sponsors. The World of Warcraft books, I highly recommend if you're a World of Warcraft player, even if you're not a World of Warcraft player. If you're just an MMO player in general, some of the Storm Rage is awesome. These are really, really great. Some of the other books on here, I know Game of Thrones is super hot right now. I don't know if you guys watched that episode last week. People are freaking out. No spoilers, please. No spoilers. But
hey, it just says you should have read the books first.
Well, you can go to Audible because they're on here. Here, let me check it out. I just book one is like 39 hours. Hang on, let's look at this. Game of Thrones. They're fantastic, by the way. Yes, 33 hours and 50 minutes clocks in book one, A Song of Fire and Ice. It's an awesome read, narrated by Roy Deutrisa. It's great series. I have to be honest, I couldn't get through the reading the series. I'm all about audiobooks, so Audible was my way of getting through Game of Thrones because it's massive. Check it out. Go on over today. Use the URL, like I said, audible.com/Gamebreaker. That's what you want to use. Get yourself a free audiobook. Download the app, put it on your smartphone today, and get to listening to something, I don't know, within an hour. It's awesome. Tons of great books. Snow Crash. Just finished that one up. Awesome. All right.
Snow Crash is great.
Isn't it? No.
Yeah.
It's a great one. All right. Next up from Jorge Rodriguez. He says, hi, guys. Good show on showing us so much quality content each week. Well, thank you for watching. He says, I love MMOs and I want to get a job there. My question is, what job is the one that balances all the numbers, and how many coders there are on a team for an MMO? I live in Portugal. Should I leave my country and finish university somewhere where I have more chances to get a job? Or can I work my way to the top just by learning by myself and creating some Unity games? Best regards. So what do you got? What kind of advice do you have for Jorge?
Yeah, so let's start with the moving away from Portugal kind of thing. So I grew up in Nova Scotia, which is a relatively remote part of Canada. And when the internet came about, I remember people talking about the death of distance and, hey, you can do anything anywhere. That's not really true. If you're getting into game design, let's say you're studying game design, take a look at the program masters he's running this summer. So we have 20-some students from 9 different colleges in the Northeast. So from Boston, we're getting people from Northern Vermont in Champlain College. We're getting people from colleges in New York, upstate New York. So, 4 hours away from us in upstate New York. And really talented students from very good schools. Why are they coming to, the Boston area, actually Worcester, to work with us? Well, there's not enough game developers, not enough internship opportunities, and things like that where they are. So I don't know anything about Portugal. Actually, quite remarkably, I do know nothing about it. I'm relatively well read, but anyway. It depends on the industry there. So if with your school there's affiliated game companies, there's a way to get an internship and try stuff, worth doing. if you can't afford to move away, doing it on your own and working to build a community. Some of the local startups I really respect right now are doing a lot of work to build the community around what they're doing. So there's, a few guys in Worcester saying, hey, we've got lots of students here. Let's get more developers here. Let's work on getting an incubator, some shared workspace. Let's share some costs. All these sorts of things help you create that community. And that, even as a student, will help build what you need to graduate and get a good job. All of those things sort of matter in what you want to do. When it comes down to the guy who runs the numbers, I mean, that's essentially the core designer's job. So the lead designer is going to put together that spreadsheet that we talked about in the last show. And it'll be all of the variables of the game, everything in it, so that you can run the spreadsheet and you can see what will happen. You can run combat, you can try all these things. Good game designers use it to figure out, is this level too hard? Is this, how many levels do I need? Because how long will it actually take them to beat this? All those sorts of things, they kind of call it a command line version of the game. So, that's a solid designer kind of a role. A lot of folks, and so we're going to meet some of the teams that I'm working with this summer, student teams. A lot of them had the urge to start coding on day one. All right, we're all together. All right, I'll code, you draw, let's go. Stopping, taking the step back, making sure they had a good concept, starting some of the work, validating that work, then moving forward. That's all of what it takes to get a good game out. So, probably next week's show we'll highlight a couple of them, and we'll give you their sort of, here's where we started, and then let's visit them a couple of times through the summer.
Looking forward to it. Last up, this one from Noaf again, who asked a question earlier. Not much of a question, but I wanted to include this. Says, hey, Monty and Gary. Thanks, Monty, for your great show and giving me a look inside my favorite business. Thanks, Gary, for Gamebreaker. I love this site and check in every day. And with that, I say thank you so much. We would not do any of this without you, the viewer. So thank you so much for watching. Monty Sharma, follow him on the Twitter at Monster MONT. Don't forget that T, STER27. And if you have questions for Monty that you want answered right here on Monty's Minute, you can send them to not submit. It's Monty. Sorry, it is Monty at Gamebreaker.tv. I'm so used to saying submit at Gamebreaker. Monty at Gamebreaker.tv. That is the URL. That is the email address to contact Mr. Monty Sharma. Have a great week. You can follow me on Twitter at Gary Gannon, and you can follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV. We'll be back next week for some more Monty's Minute. Have a great week. Good luck breaking in.